Hello and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are strapping in for something that is, frankly, a massive undertaking.
It really is.
We are tackling Red Serpent, the Falsifier by Delson Armstrong. And I have to be honest with you, right off the bat, looking at this stack of notes, the source text, the sheer density of the world building here, this isn't just a story.
No.
It feels like we're about to unpack an entire alternative universe.
It really does. It's one of those rare finds that, it just defies a single genre categorization. You look at the cover, or read the summary, and you think, okay, this is science fiction.
Right, space stations, future tech, all that.
Exactly. You see 34th century, and you think you know what you're getting, but then you peel back a layer, and it's supernatural fantasy with vampires and ancient prophecies.
And then you peel back another layer.
And on top of that, it reads like a dense political thriller or an alternative history textbook.
Exactly. It's got that heavy political intrigue vibe like, Game of Thrones in space, but then suddenly people are throwing energy balls at each other in Antarctica. It's a wild mix.
A very wild mix.
So for everyone listening, I want to set the stage properly because the premise here is, it's terrifying. Imagine a future, specifically the 34th century, where humanity didn't just lose a battle or a war. We lost the war.
We lost everything.
They lost everything. We lost Earth.
That is the core premise that hooks you. Usually in sci-fi, we are fighting to save the Earth. It's the whole point. Here, that game is already over. The tables have turned completely.
The story starts after the end.
Yes. The Earth is ruled by a vampiric race known as the Migrites, and we'll definitely get into who they are in a moment, and what's left of humanity has been exiled. We are living on a massive space station called Regnum that's orbiting the planet.
We're prisoners in our own front yard.
It's a prison, but a very high-tech, gilded cage.
And the mission for this deep dive is to unpack exactly how we got to this point. We need to understand the lore because Armstrong builds this history that goes back to 10,000 BC.
10,000 BC.
And connects it to this young guy in the 34th century named Alex Howe, who is just trying to figure out who he is. It's a sprawling timeline, but every single piece seems to matter.
And at the center of it all is this concept of the falsifier. It's a prophecy, it's a threat, it's a mystery all wrapped in one. But to understand the falsifier and to understand why humanity is living in a glass ball in space, we actually have to go way, way back.
Back to the beginning.
We have to start with the origin of the enemy.
Okay, let's do it. Let's unpack this.
Yeah.
The source material begins with what is called the King's Prologue.
Yeah.
And the atmosphere here is it's heavy. We aren't on Earth yet.
Not even close.
We are on a planet called Migra, and there's a king, Anaxagoras the 29th, and he is dying.
Right. And the scene is set with this incredible, suffocating tension. You have to picture this. A dark, alien castle. Outside, there are crowds of his subjects, but they aren't all, praying for his recovery.
No, it's not a unified front at all.
Not at all. The text describes a split reaction. Some are weeping because they love him, or maybe they just fear a future without him, but others are literally waiting for him to die so they can celebrate.
So he's already a controversial figure.
It really establishes that Anaxagoras is a polarizing figure even before he becomes a monster. He's already a complicated political entity, a tyrant to some, a savior to others.
And then the atmosphere shifts from political drama to straight-up supernatural horror. Enter the dark figure. This part of the text gave me chills.
Oh, yeah.
It's described as a cloaked entity that just glides into the castle. The guards, who are supposed to be elite, they try to stop him, and this figure just
snaps his fingers.
Snaps his fingers and freezes time.
That display of power is so crucial. We need to pause on that because it tells us the stakes. This isn't just a guy with a sword or a gun.
This isn't political maneuvering anymore.
No. Freezing time is a god-tier ability. It shows that what is about to happen isn't just a medical procedure or a political deal. It's a supernatural cosmic intervention. This dark figure walks past the frozen guards, enters the king's chamber, and offers Anaxagoras a deal.
It's the classic Faustian bargain, isn't it? I can save you.
It is.
But it comes with a very specific and very gruesome biological twist.
It is Faustian, but it's grounded in a specific set of rules, which I appreciate. The dark figure offers eternal life. But the philosophy behind it is what caught my eye. The figure says, the blood is the life.
Which is a phrase that echoes through a lot of our own Earth mythology. It's in Bram Stoker, it's in the Bible.
Exactly. This is where the source material grounds the vampire mythology we are familiar with. It's not just folklore here, it's a transaction, a contract.
A biological imperative.
The dark figure explains that Anaxagoras and his people, the Migrites, will become immortal. They will be invincible in battle, but They must feed on blood. They have to consume the life force of others to sustain their own. And there's a catch.
There's always a catch.
Always.
Silver.
Silver. They will be vulnerable only to silver. The text specifically mentions that they will abhor it. It will be poison to them. It's the only thing that can truly harm them.
So why does the dark figure do this? What's in it for him? Is he just feeling generous?
Huh. Hardly. The goal here isn't just Anaxagoras' survival. The dark figure is recruiting.
He's building an army.
He's explicitly clear about this. He wants Anaxagoras to create an immortal race to conquer the universe and eventually resurrect him, the dark figure, at a later date.
It's a pyramid scheme of cosmic domination.
That's a perfect way to put it. He's the CEO at the top, and Anaxagoras is his first major franchisee.
It's a long game. A very, very long game.
Precisely. And Anaxagoras, desperate and on the verge of death, he takes the deal. He drinks from a spectral silver chalice, he dies, and he is reborn. And right there, in that moment of transformation, the seed of the entire conflict is planted.
Because the dark figure gives him a warning.
A critical warning. He tells him he must conquer the men of the earth before the falsifier appears.
So the villain is motivated by fear of a prophecy from day one. He's barely out of the magical hospital bed, so to speak.
Right.
And he's already being told, hey, watch out for this specific threat. It's not about glory or conquest. Not really. It's about preemption.
It creates a self-fulfilling prophecy dynamic. The king becomes a tyrant to prevent the falsifier from rising, which in turn creates the conditions for the falsifier to eventually rise. It's classic tragedy.
Okay, so that's the ancient origin. We have an immortal, blood-drinking alien king with a vendetta against Earth, all because he's scared of a prophecy.
A very powerful foundation.
Now let's jump forward, way forward, to the general's prologue. We are in 3328 AD.
Thousands of years later.
And the location is Earth, specifically Antarctica. But this isn't the Antarctica we see in nature documentaries with penguins and pristine ice shelves.
No. This is a nightmare landscape. The text describes it as a volcanic, ash-covered wasteland. We have to visualize this. It's hellish. Soot everywhere, rivers of lava.
What happened to it?
The backstory implies this is the result of nuclear global warming and 4 previous world wars. Humanity did a number on the planet long before the vampires showed up. The ice caps are gone or covered in debris. It's the perfect setting for a desperate last stand.
And this is the last battle. We have the humans, led by General John Benjamin Howe III.
A fantastic character.
I love the description of this guy. He's standing there looking at an army of vampires he knows he's probably going to lose, but he tells his men, I hear the battle cry of the human race, just pure defiance.
He is the archetype of the stoic, inspiring leader. He represents the best of humanity in its darkest hour. He knows the odds. The text mentions the vampiric army, the imperial regime led by General Adiran, vastly outnumbers them and has superior physical abilities.
They're faster, stronger.
And immortal. But Howe manages to rally his troops based on sheer spirit.
But here is where the story throws a curveball. Because usually, in these stories, it's humans versus vampires, good versus evil, black and white.
Right. Simple.
But here, right in the middle of the battlefield, we are introduced to the rebels, and specifically, Nicholas Gering and Varenkov. And they are vampires.
They are, and this is a crucial piece of nuance. They are fighting for the human.
Wait, hold on. Let's pause there for a second. Why? Why would a vampire, an immortal being with super strength, turn against his own king to fight for a lesser species like humans?
That is the question the text wants us to ask. It suggests that this isn't just a biological war, it's an ideological one. Nicholas Gering represents a faction of the Migrites who disagree with the imperial regime. They believe in democracy.
In freedom.
In freedom, yeah.
Right.
And that desire for freedom is stronger than their loyalty to their species. They see Anaxagoras not as a king, but as a tyrant, the same way some of his own people did back on Mygra.
History repeating itself.
Exactly. And that relationship between Nicholas and General John Howe is so important. The text says they have a bond of brotherhood.
It wasn't always there, though.
No. It says Nicholas used to disapprove of John trying to learn vampire lore. He thought it was beneath him. But over the years of war, fighting side by side, they became family.
That adds so much depth. It shows that prejudice can be overcome by shared struggle. General Howe, a human, calls a vampire his brother.
It proves that coexistence is possible, which makes the tragedy of what happens next even more painful.
We have Aiden, this guy. He enters the scene like a superhero.
The warrior prophet.
He's described like an avenging angel, glowing with this blue light. He's not just a soldier, he's on a specific mission. While the armies are clashing outside, Aiden infiltrates the enemy base
A suicide mission.
to assassinate King Anaxagoras himself.
And he goes right into the belly of the beast. The king's base is actually a crashed ship buried in the rock. Aiden gets inside, and we get this confrontation in the throne room.
And the visuals here are striking. The walls are covered in ancient scripts,
Cuneiform Sanskrit.
which implies the vampires have been here for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Influencing our history from the shadows.
Exactly. It suggests they were the gods of ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia, that they've been manipulating human civilization for millennia. But Aiden doesn't care about history right now. He cares about the king.
And the dialogue here is so intense. Anaxagoras is just pure arrogance. He's sitting on his throne, basically telling Aiden, you have no idea what you're fighting for. Democracy. That's a joke for children.
He's the ultimate monarchist. He believes in absolute power.
And Aiden pushes back. He's fighting for the right to choose.
Yeah.
But the king just laughs at that. And then they throw down. And this isn't just sword fighting.
Oh, no. It's energy blasts. It's telekinesis. And Anaxagoras is incredibly powerful.
On a whole other level.
He is. He demonstrates that he is on a completely different plane than a normal soldier, even a gifted one like Aiden. He uses energy to crumble walls. He just completely overpowers Aiden. But, and this is the pivot point of history, Aiden lands a verbal blow before he dies.
The prophecy.
He delivers the prophecy. He looks the king in the eye and says, "The falsifier is born."
That moment, it chills the king to the bone. Aiden is physically crushed. He's dying, but he smiles because he knows the end is just the beginning.
The ultimate moral victory. The king kills him, but the fear is reignited. The very thing he came to Earth to prevent has just happened.
But despite that moral victory, the physical battle is a catastrophe. The king steps out and he controls the lava.
He controls the lava.
He literally controls the elements. He summons the volcanic magma and uses it to decimate the human army. It's a weapon of mass destruction that no human technology can counter.
It's like fighting a god.
It's a crushing defeat. The humans are forced to retreat. They lose the planet. And that leads us to the new status quo, the exile. Let's talk about Regnum.
So it's 3349 AD now, about 20 years after that battle in Antarctica. Humanity is living in a spherical space station, 1542 miles in diameter, encased in glass.
That image is wild. A giant glass ball orbiting between Earth and the moon. But let's really look at that. Why put them there? Why not just kill them all? Why keep humanity as, like, a pet?
It's psychological torture. The source material quotes the old saying, "Keep your friends close and your enemies closer," but it goes deeper than that.
How so?
Imagine being locked in a penthouse apartment where the window looks directly at your old house, a house someone else is living in now. You can see the lights, you can see the garden, but you can never, ever go back. That is Regnum. It's a daily, hourly reminder of their defeat. They are forced to watch the vampires rule their home.
That is incredibly twisted and cruel.
It's a masterpiece of psychological warfare.
So who runs this floating prison?
It's an oligarchy called the Council of Regnum. It represents the 6 continents of Earth.
Which is ironic since they don't control those continents anymore.
Yes.
It's the government of a country that doesn't exist.
Exactly. It's a government in exile, and guess who is the executive leader?
It has to be General John Howe, the survivor.
He's still there. He's managing this fragile society. He's basically the warden of a refugee camp that pretends to be a superpower. But it's not all smooth sailing inside Regnum.
Of course not.
Remember those rebel vampires? Nicholas and his crew?
Yeah. The ones who fought for the humans? What happened to them?
They were left behind on Earth.
Ouch. That's a betrayal.
A huge one. John wanted to bring them to Regnum. He argued for it passionately. But the council, and specifically a guy named General Jurad Hamid, refused.
Why?
Their logic was, well, you can see their point, even if it's wrong. They said, we just lost a war to vampires, and you want to bring vampires onto our life raft. The fear was too great.
I mean, I can kind of see their point from a pure fear perspective, but it's a betrayal of the people who bled for you.
It is, and that betrayal creates this Cold War vibe on the station. You have John Howe, who knows the vampires can be allies, and you have Hamid, who is suspicious and ambitious and sees all vampires as the enemy.
And probably sees Howe as a rival.
Absolutely. The text mentions rumors of a coup, assassination plots. It mirrors the old revolutions of Earth of the past. Even in space, humanity can't stop fighting itself.
Which brings us to our protagonist, the guy who has to inherit all this mess, Alex Howe.
John's nephew.
Let's profile him. He's 21, just graduating university. He's described as looking like an Emperor Bonaparte or Nero. That's a heavy comparison for a young man.
It signals leadership, ambition, maybe a bit of ruthlessness potential. It sets an expectation for him.
But he's got this physical vulnerability, too, which I find really interesting. He's deaf in his left ear from a football accident.
That detail grounds him. It's so important. He's not a perfect physical specimen like the vampires. He's human, he's fragile, he has to wear a hearing aid.
It's a constant reminder of his own limitations.
But he balances that physical vulnerability with intellect. He's a political science major, valedictorian of Regnum University, obsessed with military history. He studies the great leaders because he feels this weight of destiny even if he doesn't understand it yet.
But emotionally, the guy is struggling.
Deeply. He's an orphan. He never knew his father. His mother, Miriam, died at birth.
He was raised by his Uncle John and his Grandma Hal, but there's this wall of silence about his past. Whenever he asks about his dad, the subject gets changed. He feels this profound loneliness. He's surrounded by family, but he's completely alone with his questions.
And he has a girlfriend, Angel. They're planning to marry. But even at his graduation party, where he should be celebrating, there is this undercurrent of sadness. Angel seems to be hiding something.
The whole atmosphere is thick with secrets. It feels like everyone knows something Alex doesn't.
And that pressure, that feeling of being on the outside of his own life, it eventually bursts. Alex reaches his breaking point.
Yes, the turning point. After the graduation party, he basically confronts his uncle. No more games. He says, I'm done waiting. I want to know who my father was. I want the truth.
And John sees the look in his eyes and finally agrees. It's time. They take him back to the estate, but not to the living room. They go to a hidden section behind the library.
This scene felt like something out of a spy movie mixed with Indiana Jones. There's a silver door, but it's not just a key lock.
No, it's high-tech biometric. It requires a fingerprint and, crucially, a drop of blood.
Why blood? That's the question Alex asks immediately. Why does it need my blood?
And Uncle John just smiles. It hints that Alex's genetic makeup is the key. The door isn't just checking who he is, it's checking what he is.
And then there's a password. The voice recognition asks for his name. He says, Alexander Howe.
Access denied.
He tries his mother's name, Miriam Howe.
Access denied.
The tension there. 3 attempts left until total lockdown. He's about to be locked out of his own history forever.
And then Alex spots the inscription on the door. It's in those ancient languages again. Cuneiform, Hebrew, Sanskrit. But he's a history buff, so he recognizes them. And he realizes they all spell one name.
Aiden.
Aiden, the fallen hero from the prologue, the man who prophesied the falsifier.
So Alex says, Aiden, the door opens. And what is inside? Okay, this is where the deep dive gets a little graphic. We need to talk about the decor in this room.
It's a striking, disturbing image.
It's a room filled with books, a library. But in the center of the room, there is a waterfall. But it's not water.
It's blood.
Real blood.
Real blood, flowing from the ceiling into a pool.
Okay, pause. A literal waterfall of blood in a basement.
That seems incredibly unsanitary, for one, not to mention horrifying. Is this symbolic, or are we talking about gallons of hemoglobin cycling through a pump system? Because that changes how I view Uncle John.
I know, it's gruesome, you're right. But think about it from a preservation standpoint within the lore.
Okay.
If the blood is the life, as the lore states, this room is essentially a battery. It's a power source. It keeps the atmosphere of the room alive in a supernatural sense. It's not for decoration.
So it's functional.
It sets a tone of ancient visceral power. This isn't a normal library. This is a sanctuary of the old ways, a place steeped in Mygrite power. Okay, that makes it slightly less gross, but still very, very creepy.
Yeah.
So amidst the blood decor, on the desk, there is a book.
The History of the Dynasty and a plain translation of the verse of the Ardemic prophecies.
Catchy title. Very academic.
A bit of a mouthful, yes, but the content changes everything we think we know about this universe.
This is the deep lore section, and this blew my mind, because up until now, we think vampires are just vampires, monsters. But this book explains their origin.
They are the Mygrites, and they didn't start as bloodsuckers. 150,000 years ago on the planet Mingra, they were a utopian society. And here's the kicker, they were solar beings.
Solar beings. Explain that. What does that even mean?
They absorbed energy directly from the sun, like photosynthetic humanoids. They didn't need food, they didn't get sick. They were essentially immortal beings of light.
Okay, let's think about the biological implications of that for a second. If a species is photosynthetic, if they are solar beings, they have zero evolutionary need for aggression.
None?
They don't hunt, they don't graze, they don't compete for resources, they just exist.
Exactly. And this explains why their early society was a utopia. No resource scarcity means no war, no crime, no poverty. But then the corruption set in. They learned necromancy.
Raising the dead.
And somewhere along the line, that dark magic shifted their biology. It corrupted them. They went from consuming pure solar energy to consuming blood.
That is a fascinating flip. The shift to drinking blood isn't just a dietary change, it's a complete rewiring of their psychology.
It's a fall from grace.
They went from being self-sustaining producers of energy to parasitic consumers. That is the tragedy of the Migrites. They didn't just become monsters, they lost their independence from other life forms.
Precisely. And the history book also details their political struggles, even in that utopian state. There was a massive civil war on Mygra between two brothers, Emperor Marcos and Argos.
The classic Cain and Abel dynamic.
In a way, Marcos was a tyrant who wanted to centralize power. Argos was a democrat who believed in freedom. Argos eventually won, he beheaded his brother, and he established the Nyrax dynasty.
So internal conflict is baked into their history.
It establishes that this race is prone to it. They are politically unstable.
Which explains why there are rebels helping humans now. It's in their DNA, so to speak. Dissent is part of their culture.
It is. They aren't a monolith. Never have been.
Okay, so Alex is reading this insane history lesson. But then he gets to the juicy part. The prophecy, the Ardemic prophecies.
This is what Anaxagoras was so afraid of. Verse 69.
This talks about the Lord of all bloods.
It predicts a time when the moon darkens and this figure appears. But listen to the definition of the falsifier. This is key. It says he is the enemy of the king, but also the son of men and Anisai.
Anisai, what's that?
It implies a hybrid, a mix of human and Migrite, a being of two worlds.
And verse X Xenolite talks about a false one with power unlike any other, known only to the Holy King.
Alex reads this and he starts connecting the dots. The name Alexandros appears in the history books, linked to this prophecy. He realizes the prophecy isn't about some stranger, it's about him.
That is an existential crisis of the highest order. Yeah. You walk into a room thinking, I want to know who my dad is, and you leave thinking, I might be a vampire messiah who is destined to destroy the king.
And he specifically questions his own nature. He asks himself, is he a vampire? Is he a hybrid? The biometrics requiring his blood suddenly make a lot more sense.
It wasn't just an ID check.
It was a species check. If he has Migrite blood, that explains why he was able to open the door when his name wasn't the password. His biology was the key.
And then, just to twist the knife a little more, a letter falls out of the book.
A letter from the grave.
Dated November 11th, 3328. The day of the last battle.
Which is also Alex's birthday. The day Aiden said the falsifier is born.
It's from his mother, Miriam. And it is just heartbreaking. She writes it knowing she's going to die in childbirth.
She confirms everything. She confirms he was born on the day of the defeat. But she doesn't call him the falsifier. She calls him the salvation for all races.
Salvation for all races, not just for humans.
That's the key phrase right there. It changes everything. She mentions that his father knew he was destined for victory.
But we still don't get the father's name, do we? Not right then.
Not explicitly in the letter Alex reads in that moment. It remains the elusive piece of the puzzle. But the weight of the destiny is placed squarely on his shoulders. He isn't just John Howe's nephew anymore. He is the pivot point of history.
And the ending of this section is such a perfect cliffhanger. Alex turns to his grandmother, holding this letter, completely overwhelmed, and asks, "When did you give me this letter?"
And she replies, "Right after you fell unconscious."
Boom. Alex passes out from the shock of the revelation.
I mean, it's a lot to take in. I think any of us would faint if we found out we were the subject of a 10,000-year-old prophecy involving space vampires and a blood waterfall in our basement.
Fair point. So, what does this all mean? Let's zoom out. We have a story that is subverting the chosen one trope in a really interesting way. Usually the chosen one is prophesied by the good guys to save the world. Here, the hero is prophesied by the bad guys as the falsifier. He is their boogeyman.
It's a matter of perspective, isn't it? To the king, he is the falsifier. He falsifies the king's absolute claim to power. To the humans, and perhaps to the vampires who want to return to their solar roots, he is the savior.
And that solar connection is what I can't stop thinking about. If the vampires were originally beings of light who devolved into blood drinkers, is Alex's mission to just kill them all? Or is it to fix them?
That is the provocative thought, isn't it? The prophecy says salvation for all races, plural. If you just kill all the vampires, you aren't saving them, you're committing genocide. But if you can restore them, if you can reverse the devolution and turn them back into solar beings, that is a much grander, much more difficult, and much more compassionate mission.
It redefines the war completely. It's not a war of extermination, it's a war of reclamation. It challenges us and Alex to look at our enemies and ask, are they monsters or are they just broken?
And remember, Alex is a student of history. He knows that empires rise and fall. He knows about Marcos and Argos. He knows that change often comes from within. He is positioned not just as a warrior, but as a bridge between these two histories, these two species.
A bridge built on blood.
Literally and metaphorically.
There are so many details in the source text that we glossed over that I want to circle back to just to show how rich this world is.
Please.
For example, the languages on that secret door: cuneiform, Hebrew, Sanskrit, Egyptian, Arabic, Urdu. It implies that the secret of the vampires, this hidden history, has been woven into human culture for millennia.
It reinforces the idea that human history and migrate history are inextricably linked. We aren't separate. We are two strands of the same story, whether we knew it or not. They've been a part of our world far longer than we realized.
And the character of John Howe.
Yeah.
We need to give him his flowers. He's held this secret for 21 years.
An incredible burden.
He raised the falsifier under the nose of the enemy, essentially, on a space station that is, for all intents and purposes, controlled by them.
He's the ultimate guardian, and his relationship with Nicholas, the vampire rebel, is the proof of concept for the whole story.
How do you mean?
It proves that coexistence is possible. It proves that love and honor can transcend the biological drive for blood. It's the small-scale example of what Alex is destined to do on a grand scale. John and Nicholas are the blueprint.
So where does this leave us? We have a boy who now knows he is the weapon. We have a king on Earth who has been waiting for him, fearing him, for 21 years. And we have the rest of humanity stuck in a glass ball in space, completely unaware.
The board is set, the pieces are moving, and the falsifier has been awakened.
It is a heck of a setup. I frankly cannot wait to see where this goes in the next books. But for now, looking at just this source material, Red Serpent has given us a massive, complex universe to chew on.
It really challenges us to reconsider what enemy really means. Is it the person you're fighting, or the system that made you both fight in the first place?
That is the question. Thank you for listening to this deep dive into Red Serpent, the Falsifier. We will catch you on the next one.
Stay curious.